What's up? Welcome back to another episode of Full Metal RPG. This is episode 117. I am your host, Ashley Smith, and I'm here with some of my friends. First, I have Jess. Jess is one of my roommates. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in gaming.
Oh gosh, so I'm Jess. I am relatively recently into the RPG world. I started 6 or 7 years ago. My very first game was Shadowrun. So
Good, just throw you into it. Yes,
just right into it. And I was going through a kind of a really rough personal patch at the time, so new friends, new hobby, new everything, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I showed up at the table with absolutely nothing going for me. Used one of the template characters, and the DM just said, "Okay, you don't have a backstory, so you just have amnesia," and we just kept going. And that game went for like a year and a half, almost 2 years, and it's still one of the better gaming experiences I've ever had. And we did some really cool stuff. But first character, her name was Ricochet, which is how you can find me online most of the time. CN, codename Ricochet.
And when I saw CN Ricochet, I'm like, so chaotic neutral? Like, I don't understand that, but
codename, yes, codename, because that was her street name.
Gotcha. Yeah. And Shadowrun's one I haven't played before. I've wanted to. I've never. Yes. I'm like, it's again, this is one of the ones that I moved into my house during the pandemic because I wanted to play games and was lonely. So she's part of my commune. So I've never played that, but yeah, we should totally do that. That'd be fun. So thank you so much for being on the episode. I'm so excited. Next we have Darrel, a face you recognize.
Hi,
how are you doing?
I'm Darrel. Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I've got my tea in my mug. So yes, I'm good to go.
I didn't have time to grab coffee.
Oh no.
I had coffee this morning. So
okay.
So as long as we're doing introductions, my name's Darrel. Y'all have heard my stories before, I'm sure, but my first experience with role playing was at like 6 years old when my older sister, and her friends were forced to let me play with them, and I was murdered halfway through the session and gave up D&D for 20 years before my best friend Adam convinced me to give it another shot, and I jumped back in and GM'd some games at Comic-Con and became a con GM for a while. And now I run my own Monster Mondays here at the house playing horror games that we're actually just getting back into. So that's what I do. Lots of World of Darkness and horror gaming.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Still so sad that I can't do that on Mondays.
I know, because we have our Pathfinder campaign, or else I'd be in on it too. Yeah. The World of Darkness is kind of my first experience. I wasn't in it for very long, but that was my first character. Was a kind of Super Friends thing. Like it was vampire and werewolf. It was just White Wolf. Everything was just that. So and my character had amnesia. That's because I didn't know what to do. So I'm like, I like purple. Her name's Violet. So she was a kitsune. She's a lot of fun. But so I have very limited experience with World of Darkness stuff, but I like it a lot. So thank you for being here. Cynthia is our last person. Cynthia is the reason I got into gaming, actually. Cynthia is the first person that brought me into it a bunch. So I have her to thank for being here. So introduce yourself. What's your experience with gaming?
Yeah, so my name is Cynthia, and my first role-playing experience was about 5 or 6 years ago, D&D 5th edition, with just some friends that we all met at a concert, basically, way longer than that. And it wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago that RPGs kind of came up in conversation, and then we set up a group like, hey, all right, let's just see how this works. Half of them live in the UK, a couple of us live in the States, and we set it up on Roll20, and we're still playing that particular campaign. Obviously, it hasn't been, a continuous 5 or 6 years, but that same group, we're also, because of the scheduling conflict, so that we've actually started Blades in the Dark, and that is probably my current favorite RPG at the moment. But yeah, so that's kind of what got me started into it, and I've since played several D&D one-shots and campaigns. We're in Pathfinder. Mm-hmm. I've also run a few one-shots with you and Jess in the party as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's kind of, and then I'm still so curious to find out more about all the other, RPGs that are out there as well.
All the other systems, because there's so much. It's not just D&D and Pathfinder. Like, there's so much. Cynthia's a pun master, and so she will literally build an entire ass one-shot for a pun.
For one punchline.
Yes.
It's not even, like, the rest of it is not a pun until you get to the very end. You're just like, God damn it.
Yes. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's so fun. So we always, because she does every once in a while, she'll give the GM for Pathfinder a break and do a one-shot for us. And we always, the entire time going through, we're like, what is she up to? Like, what is this one going to be? Because it's always something. It's never just a straight up one shot. So
I had such high hopes for that one. I was like, okay, this is normal. This is fine.
Yeah. The last one was a share on a boat pun, something about turn back time. It was something. So
yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So
cool. I have a lot. I really set the bar high for myself with that last one. So
yeah, you should just go out on that one, retire. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. We have a pretty fun episode, I think, that we're going to talk about. So I'm pretty excited to get into it. But before we do that, a couple housekeeping notes. We are selling the original season 1 t-shirt design for the last time. Only available till July 3rd. It's to celebrate Brendan's tenure. Don't want to say we're celebrating his leaving because we're very sad to see him go, but we're celebrating his tenure on the show. So if you go to fullmetalrpg.com, there's a link to our merch on TeePublic there, but the original shirt's pretty cool. So that's going to be on there, and it will be gone as of July 3rd. Won't be able to get it anymore. So also, speaking of Brendan and Rob's show about Hot Toy Soldier on Toy Soldier Action. It's called Realm of Fire. It now has its own RSS feed, so you can find it wherever podcasts are delivered. You can get that there. So Realm of Fire, if you're into like Warhammer, stuff like that, that's a good show for you. And that is where Brendan's going to be spending a lot of his time now. Also, if you like our show, please rate and review it. That's the best way for other people to find the show. So if you have an opportunity to do that, we would super appreciate it. And we want to thank all of our patrons. So if you're a Patreon supporter, thank you so much. We wouldn't be here without what you provide for us. So like we have better equipment now. We're able to stream. We have some other stuff coming up for our patrons. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you. We have a survey coming up because we're preparing to launch season 3. As you know, there's going to be some changes. So we just want your feedback on what you'd like to see more of or less of going forward. So that will be coming out soon. So keep an eye for that. And there is not going to be a Morkborg actual play this month. So that's one of the things we're going to be covering in the survey. So keep an eye out for that. All right. So housekeeping's out of the way. And now we get to go into our black hole. So we talked a little bit about our background with gaming, but the black hole is just the all-encompassing gaming hobby that just sucks all of your time. So what I would like to know is, what are you guys playing right now? So Jess.
Oh, okay.
What are you playing right now?
Well, right now, I've been DMing Strahd, Curse of Strahd 5e for over a year now. I think I started in April of last year, and we've been doing it all on Roll20. Actually, yeah, because we started it because of the pandemic, and everybody was jumping online anyway. So my friends up in Seattle said, "Hey, we want to play." And I ended up doing Strahd for them. So that's been a weekly game for over a year now, and that's...
Yeah. Have you gotten... That's a lot, I know. Have you gotten to look at Van Richten's guide, and are you planning on incorporating any of that into Strahd or anything?
Yeah. I haven't gotten my hands on a copy yet, but I want it because there's so much stuff in there about building... the planes, the demi-planes, and how to build your own plane, and all the stories about the different planes and the different monsters and cool things. So yes, I really want to dig into that because I have some unanswered questions about how Strahd's plane in particular works, and I'd like more inspiration about how to figure that out. So yes, I do want to get that and incorporate that because it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, it seems like Strahd's kind of, everyone's all about it right now. It's been out for a little bit, but for some reason, there's a group on Facebook that I'm in that everyone is just like, I want to DM for the first time. I'm thinking Strahd. And I'm always kind of like,
Don't do that.
Yeah, I don't know why you do that to yourself, but yeah.
Strahd is my second time DMing technically because I did the mini campaign that didn't quite kick off with you two. But yeah, it's its own beast. Just because it is so sandboxy, so you kind of have to know everything all the time, and there's so much extra room for you to build the world, and you kind of have to build the world around your characters.
Yeah.
So it's not. There's a lot that you have to bring to Strahd in order to make it good.
Yeah. So at the end, I'm going to put information out there about where you can find people. And so if you are looking to DM Strahd or you have questions on it or anything, Jess has been running it for over a year, has a lot of really good tools and tips because she's an organizer. So she has all of her stuff laid out. So if you have any questions about that or anything, Jess would be a really good person to talk to about Strahd. So I'll give you information on where to find her at the end there.
Yeah.
So
I've taken up a lot of time, so I will just real quickly say I'm also in the Pathfinder 1 campaign with a lot of people, and then Pathfinder 2. Those are both semi-weekly. And I wanted to give a shout out. My Kickstarter that I backed is coming in this week. I got the notification that it's shipping for Amending. It's that embroidery kind of solo RPG storytelling thing that I'm really looking forward to digging into.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. Yeah. That's very cool. So it's RPG storytelling through embroidery. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I love different stuff like that. I'm really excited to see that. So very cool. Awesome. All right. We will jump down to Cynthia to throw up the order a little bit. But what are you into? What are you playing?
Yeah. So right now, as Jess mentioned, the Pathfinder First Edition. So that's every Monday, and I am also in a every other Tuesday Dragon Heist campaign in another group. And then the gaming group that I mentioned before, granted, we haven't been able to get our schedule set, but we do technically still have the Blades in the Dark going on as well. So those are the tabletop RPGs. I'm not sure if that's just what we're talking about.
Yeah, mainly tabletop, but if you have anything else that you want to throw in, you can.
No, I just restarted Dragon Age Origins, which is an RPG, but it's video game.
Yes. Okay.
I'm not. Yeah.
Game like that game. I swear. Yeah. So cool. Good. Yeah. That'll be fun. So Pathfinder 1, Cynthia is in the Pathfinder 1 campaign that I play every Monday. So is Jess. Cynthia is playing a new character now because her fiance was killed. Was an NPC. It was a very in-game. Yes, not her, not Cynthia.
Yeah, no.
Character.
Oh, wow. Just by a certain someone. Is it this? I don't know if I'm getting it right on the camera. But... yeah, I did.
I didn't. Caloret didn't do it. It wasn't me. I promise.
But yeah,
did not mean to. Yeah. So, Cynthia decided to retire her character and bring a new one in, which is a new experience for me anyway. I've never had a character do that. So now we get to, we've been playing this campaign for a couple years now with this character.
Yeah.
So it was really emotional, like with her leaving, and now we've got the new character in, and yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited. But talk a little bit about Blades in the Dark, because I've never played it, but I know that that's another one I've heard a lot about.
Yeah, so I'm a player in it, so I'll try to give my perspective. But it's just, and we're playing it on Roll20, so all of our rolls are just a click. So I'm not really sure the mechanics of all that. But it's essentially session 0 is you're building your crew, and so we spent our time with the GM asking us questions of who we are, kind of what our story is, and then we have the individual build. And then we have our crew build, which is our what our faction is, what our where's our base, and describe it. And it's all, and the reason why the GM is the way he described it to us and why he likes it so much is that the prep is very minimal, because it's literally we are telling the story and we're telling him what we're going to do. Yeah. And then he'll say, okay, you can, and then we'll find out if it was a great success, that kind of thing. So we're basically just playing a bunch of. I guess it's just like a rogue RPG, right? Because you're in a gang. You can either be like a scoundrel or an assassin, or all these different subgenres of what you would consider like your typical rogue.
Cool.
that's my take on it. I don't know if someone else knows more about it, but that's kind of my perspective on it. So
okay, so when you're in like a Pathfinder, which is like uber crunch, and then you're in Blades in the Dark, which is very narrative based. So that's probably an interesting dynamic.
Exactly. And then the D&D in the middle is kind of like the balance of the two, which is interesting. Because I enjoy, and actually it's interesting, like building the new character in Pathfinder.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because I was leveling him up in game, or not in game, but like to get him into the game. But the crunchy numbers kind of made more sense to me. It clicked. And I was like, oh, yeah, I think I get it. Like, okay. So, awesome. But yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Awesome. So it sounds like you've got a good spread of different types of games going on.
Yeah, I'm all about balance in most things in my life, so it makes sense.
Yeah. All right, Darrel, I know that you have your Monsters Monday coming back, but what else are you into?
Well, Monster Monday is what I'm prepping for right now. We're going to get together hopefully tomorrow night and decide which direction we're going to head and pick a game. Whether I think the ones that are still on our radar are Geist, Mummy, and Demon are the last three that and Vampire. So those are the ones that are still needing to be opened and played. And then we've got to decide whether we want to create a new story or continue with our ever-evolving Anakabe / Camp Shazdog story arc. But that'll be fun. Beyond that, the only game that I've played in recently was your game, Thirsty Sword Lesbian game, which was so much fun.
Good. I'm glad you liked
the
it.
Apocalypse, social combat. Oh, I loved everything about it. So.
Nice segue.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what have you been playing, Ashley?
Yes. Well, I did run Thirsty Sword Lesbians, which I'm really excited to talk about. And we'll get into that in a second. But there's a few things I want to talk about before I get there. So thank you for that. Yes. So the first thing I want to talk about is there's a store called Gamers Guild. They have no affiliation with the show whatsoever, but Jeremy, our other roommate, he went there yesterday and can't stop talking about how amazing it was. So it's a new game store that opened. They're really all about inclusivity, and they have like their code of conduct on huge banners on the wall, and they're very serious about all of that. So I know that right now everyone has their local game store that they want to support. Things are opening back up, so definitely go back and support them because they were able to stay open during the pandemic. But this is another one. Yes, it's located in Tempe. Yes, it's in Tempe, but I don't know where. So yeah, but it's a new store that opened up that we've got personal experience with. It's fun. So I'm also playing in my Pathfinder 1 campaign and the Pathfinder 2 campaign still. Pathfinder 2 is the one. Well, my GM's been trying to kill me in both of them.
Yes.
Recently, for some reason. Yes. It's not my rolling. It's yeah. So last session of Pathfinder 2, before we took a couple month break because one of the players is in a play, he blinded me, the rogue. So I was permanently blinded as the rogue, which is going to be. I was really excited to figure out how I was going to play that, but the druid healed me at the end of the session, so I only had to play one session blinded. But
I had so much fun.
It was fun, yeah. So that one was a lot of fun to figure out how we were going to do that. But since it's on hiatus, last night I ran Dungeon Doors, which is like a D&D card game kind of for Jess and Jeremy and Angel, one of our other friends that's in that. And that one's really cool. There's combat, like you roll to hit, you roll damage, and it's basically you work your way through a dungeon, and each room is on a card. So that one's a lot of fun. Then also I have Yukon Dark going, which is the Tiny Cthulhu actual play that I do on Thursdays with Gallant Knight Games, and we are heading into the final third of the campaign because it's just 12 sessions. And Maddie Murdoch, the GM, she made 3 sections basically to go through, and we're heading into the third one, and it's getting like her descriptions are intense. They're so good. Disgusting. They're absolutely disgusting. So yeah, it's fantastic. So it's all on the Gallant Knight Games YouTube channel if you wanted to get caught up, and you can catch the last part with us as we do it live. But that's been a lot of fun. So yeah, and then between all of that, I did run Thirsty Sword Lesbians for the group. So Thirsty Sword Lesbians is a PBTA game, and I actually have the book. Let me show you.
Yes,
the book's just so cool looking too. I know that. Yeah. Is it backwards for you guys or just
no? It's good.
Okay, cool, awesome. So it's colorful and pretty, and I love it. But yeah, so It was a lot of fun. I'm still pretty inexperienced with running games, so I was really excited to do a one shot with some of my favorite people that I trust. So it's really well laid out. Everything is right there for you, and it's just a very narrative based game. So you guys just kind of were able to go wild with it. So what did you guys think?
Just a quick note. I looked online. Gamers Guild is on 48th and Broadway.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. 48th Street and Broadway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very cool.
I liked it.
Yeah. It's great.
Go, Darrel, go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I play a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse systems. Dungeon World, Apocalypse World, Monster of the Week. It's my jam because it's simple, easy rolls. It's simple, easy mechanics. There's not a lot to worry about. The character creation was awesome because you get, with all the PBTA systems, you get playbooks, so you get to pick through different character archetypes. I was the goth lesbian.
Yes.
I don't remember my character name. I left the character sheet downstairs, but I was the witchy lesbian with the
spooky witch. Yeah.
Spooky witch. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. But you get to like choose different aspects of your character. It's all like pick and choose. It was good fun, and I feel like the game provides enough silliness that it's amusing and fun to play. But there was a couple of good emotional punches. I'm sure we'll get into as we talk about it. It's a game with heart. It was really cool. What I really loved about it was the mechanical resolutions are not hit point based.
Yeah.
You get negative modifiers to your stats if you take hits, that you have to take specific actions to undo those modifiers. And they're not easy ones. Like to your strength, I want to say, you have to break something that you care about. It's just, and then it creates story. So it was a good game. And Ashley, you did a wonderful job running it. It was so much fun.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to run it too. You guys had fun with it, which was great. Because it's like you said, there's enough silliness to kind of bring levity to it. So it's fun to explore within that little universe. It was really cool. So Cynthia, what was your favorite part about it?
Yeah, and actually, I was going to say, that was probably my first PBTA, but I also just looked up. Blades in the Dark apparently is also PBTA.
Yes. So, yeah.
Like when Darrel was explaining it, I was like, wait a second, no, it's the same thing. Yeah. But yeah, I to kind of follow what he's saying, the character creation was probably my favorite bit. Yeah. Because that's kind of where you get your like kind of the improv aspect, but just on building I like the character connections, that was kind of part of it, is like, who would you say you trust the most out of this group, or how, like, what's your connection? Like, who would know this secret about you? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like the strings, connecting the strings there.
Thank you. Strings,
and they were different for each playbook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I played the infamous Thirsty Sword Lesbian, and which was basically someone who had a dark past that she had broken away from. And so one of the choices was basically, if you broke away from like basically a cult or something like that. And so I chose that I broke away from the Gold Star lesbian thing or cult. And I was trying to atone for the, damage that I had done on that. So that was really a fun kind of, that I hadn't even thought of. I thought about it at the table, when everyone else was kind of going through their creation, it just kind of like created itself or manifested itself, I guess. So, really big fan of the character creation. The gameplay was a lot of fun. The RP in it was really fun with everyone. I can't hear, first of all, without laughing anymore. Because one of our other players, one of the other players, Jeremy, his sword was named first of all. So every
he was
time,
like our paladin type. So
yeah, that's right, because we were all gal paladins.
The gal paladins was gal the name paladins. Of the,
but so much fun. And anytime if you ever want to run it again, I am definitely down. So
I definitely want to for this group especially, and kind of take our little group and go explore different things. So there's that's the other thing, is they give ideas for one shots, but then they also give ideas where if you want to take it further, these are some other things that you can do. So like they have so many adventures laid out there for the GM. And on top of that, it's, one shot, or if you want to take it and make like a little mini campaign or just do several one shots about it, it's really well laid out for that. So it was really nice as the GM to have that book. It's a really good one for that.
It's a good book. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love character creation. Like, PBTA is just so good for character creation anyway, but I just sent out the playbooks to the players and said, just kind of look over and figure out what you want. Fortunately, there wasn't, 2 people wanted to fight over the spooky witch or anything like that. So, I mean, Jess and Darrel almost really close to fighting over
real
it.
Close.
We got real close. But Jess had another Jess had another idea in mind, so it was good. But I wanted an arm wrestling match, didn't happen. But
yeah, because I was halfsies on both of them. So as soon as he said he wanted one, I was like, okay, I'll take the other one.
Yeah. You're like, that's fine, I'll take that.
I don't fight at the table, Ashley.
Of course not. Unless it's, against a monster or something. So
unless it's with flirting.
That's true. That was one of the
oh my god, that's right.
One of the mechanics is to flirt. Like, you can throw people off by flirting with them, or you can give them a boost by flirting with them. So it's definitely one I would recommend playing, maybe with people because that's part of the game, is to flirt with each other. So it's so much fun.
And it has a blurb in the front about consent and everything too. So the book is very upfront about make sure you're doing these things ethically and being kind to one another. And
yeah, definitely have an X card, talk about lines and veils, all of that up front.
Well, and I remember there was also a point in the very beginning, specifically with Jess, because we've known each other for years now, like everyone at the table. And obviously, I just met Darrel, but you've known it anyway. And there was a point in the beginning where Jess was like, okay, I'm going to be RPing it this way, but just know that's my character. Like, I'm not uncomfortable. My character is going to be, because we all know her and kind of her personality and, how we all kind of joke around and interact with one another. So that was really interesting too, to have that on the flip side of that as well. So
yeah. I played again, just like Darrel, I can't remember what her name was or what the archetype was, but basically her archetype was that she represses her emotions. So she's uncomfortable with displaying emotion. So I, knowing that flirting was one of the main mechanics of the game, I flat out said to everybody, if I start looking uncomfortable when you start flirting with me, it's because it's written on the character sheet. I'm not actually mad at you.
Yeah. So I naturally flirted with her first. Like that, she was. I was like, "You're a target." That's it.
You're just like you, right there.
Yep. Great. Cool. Yeah. No, that's fine. It's great.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
I know I was Bones with a Z.
Yes.
I don't remember any of the other ones though.
Yeah.
Jeremy's character had a really good name too, though.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Usually it's like, yeah. First of all, was the sword. So.
His unicorn was named Nug Nug. I remember that bit.
Yes. Nug Nug the flying unicorn. That was a lot of fun.
Good times.
Cool. So, Jess, did you have any high points or low points you wanted to talk about specifically other than character creation and the flirting?
I will say that it made it, because of the character creation, it made it very easy to step into another identity, which is something that I have only recently come to understand that I may or may not struggle with. I've never played, and we'll get into this more later.
Yeah.
I've never really played something other than what I am.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me the tools and some themes to grab onto to try to understand and embody this character who is very different from myself.
Yeah.
I will say that it is what it says on the tin. Thirsty sword lesbians you're going to get into is going to be kind of wild and crazy ride. There is definitely an emphasis and it actively encourages you to start romantic and sexual and flirtatious relationships with NPCs and other characters at the table. So you have to go into that knowing that and being comfortable with it or talking about it beforehand and just make sure that everything's at your own comfort level, because it's the game is geared specifically for that. Because if you're uncomfortable with that, then don't do that.
There's definitely talk about it beforehand. And I'm a huge advocate of, before a game, sit down, have your contract at the table, which is something I learned from Darrel, and just talk about where you're planning on playing this. And there is a whole blurb at the beginning of the book this is not just for thirsty sword lesbians. Like if you're ace, for example, or you're sex adverse or anything like that, it's still for you, and you can definitely play it that way. It's just definitely a conversation to have at the beginning. So there are options for that. It's just the way we played it, because I know you guys was leaning heavily into that because of who it was at the table. Yeah. So just know your table. It's one that I would definitely say make sure you are comfortable and you trust the people you're playing with, because it has the potential to get into some territory that might be uncomfortable for some people. But it was a ton of fun, and I definitely want to run it again. So
yeah, it's tools for exploring those things, which I really liked.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And it's out at local game stores now. There are some of them have it out. So it's for sale as of like a week ago or something. So
yeah, this week.
It's Pride. If you want to run like a, lesbian adventure, thirsty sword lesbian adventure, then it's out there for you. So that was a lot of fun. Cool. I'm glad you guys had fun, and I definitely want to run that again. It was really cool. So one thing Jess touched on was playing someone else at the table and exploring something that's not who you are. And that's actually going to be getting into our topic, which is gender expression at the table. So before we get into that, I just want to give 2 basic definitions to make sure everyone is on the same page. Cisgender and transgender. So cisgender is you are the gender that you were assigned at birth. So I am cisgender, for example, because when I was born, the doctor looked at me and said, yep, she has girl parts, so she's a girl. So I'm cisgender because I identify as the gender that I was given at birth. Transgender is anything other than that. So just wanted to put that out there. When we are talking about women, men, anything in between, cisgender, transgender women are women. Cisgender and transgender men are men. Okay. And then there's non-binary, genderqueer, gender fluid, everything in between. So when we're talking about gender, I just wanted to put out there that this is where we stand on that. Did you guys have any thoughts that you wanted to put in with that? Cool.
No, that covers things pretty well.
Gender is different than sex.
Correct. Gender is different than sex. And we're going to be talking about gender at the table with this. Okay, cool. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, since some of us have experience with this, is being femme at the table or being women at the table. I want to make sure that we don't spend a whole lot of time on this, because there's a lot more to explore later on. But I just wanted to know, what experiences have you had either presenting femme at the table or being a woman at the table? Have you noticed anything different, or any experiences that you've had where you feel like it's not the same as
I've
a man?
been very lucky in my gaming career, in that I've mostly played with people who either people I know or people who are friends of friends. So I've had good people around me who respect me, and I've always played with mixed groups, which has been really good. Mm-hmm. The only story that always comes to mind when I'm talking about being femme, being a woman in the gaming realm, is one time for a one-shot, I created a character, and she was a woman, a werewolf, actually. And I purposefully I kind of tried to play down her attractiveness. I didn't want her to be an attractive character. I didn't want her to play on her sexuality at all. But the DM and the other players at the table still treated her like that. Like, the conversations were all, oh, well, hey, this is a pretty lady. And I'm like, she's not. No, I don't want that. It's just, I couldn't get away from that. And luckily, like I said, it was only like the one time that's really happened to me, and I haven't sat at tables where that's been an issue, but it always sticks out. I had to stop the DM and just be like, okay, I want you to show you my character sheet. I didn't put any points in her being attractive or charismatic or anything. I want her to be awkward and get by on other stuff. So I had to doubly communicate that at the table for it to be a thing.
Yes. Yeah, it's sometimes difficult for people to see the player and separate them from the character, which is sometimes necessary if you're going for something different. One thing I want to point out, we did have a comment on the stream from Gonzalez112 that says no prefixes on my friends transgender pride, which I fully agree. And that's why I just wanted to make clear that our stance is women are women, men are men. It doesn't matter. Transgender women and transgender men are men and women. So, So yes, I fully agree. Yes, I fully agree with you. So, Yeah, but it is difficult sometimes for people to separate the player from the character, especially when you're playing something that, or someone who is not what people see when they look at you. I agree. So,
yeah, that's
Darrel, with you playing with women at the table, have you ever seen anything, like, have you ever noticed anyone treating anyone differently at the table because of their gender or gender expression?
So one of my, as I jumped into the convention circuit, one of the things that I was really conscious of was how people were treated at the table, and it informed a lot of how I run my private groups, and it's one of the reasons that I moved our private group out of a public space, was to make sure that everybody was comfortable. So I heard a lot of horror stories from people. Everybody's got a bad table story that's just awful, and it, as a person who presents masculine quite often, it bothers me to hear other people treating people this way. And so Richard and I, when we started to work with Arizona Game Fair and get that going, one of my major missions was to make sure that none of that was tolerated, that it was very well visible, no private tables, no hidden rooms, and that we were consciously walking the floor looking for things like this that we could fix. And I'm really happy to say that we created a really inclusive convention out of that. There was only one incident the last year that we ran it that turned into a thing, but at the time we thought it was a much bigger issue. When we contacted the person involved, she said that it was much less of a thing than we were worried about. She had been texting her husband that she was slightly uncomfortable, and he came to the table and made a big deal out of it. But overall, I'd say that I personally haven't witnessed it at the table, and I'm very keyed into it. But again, I am very much gaming in spaces where we're conscious of this and aware of this and working to combat the sexism or homophobia at the table. So I can say that those are the spaces that I create. Those are the spaces that I visit. So I can't guarantee that that's going to be everybody's experience across the board. I have heard from a lot of my non-masculine friends that they've had challenges. So yeah, it's out there for sure.
Yeah. And go ahead, Jess.
I will say real quick that the DM who in my story, he is actually somebody who's very aware of that kind of thing. So I use it as a kind of a lesson that even we have our internal biases, even if we're trying, sometimes we still mess up like that. Because he tries very hard to be inclusive and respectful, and still there was just that automatic.
And that's a good point, is I think it's really important to identify and recognize and acknowledge that we have our personal biases on things. And so you can't fix it if you don't know it's there, so you can't work on it and become a better person and be more understanding and all of that if you don't recognize it's there and actively work on it. So that's a good point. And as far as creating spaces and staying in spaces that you feel comfortable in, that's kind of, I've lucked out a little bit too, because I don't game with assholes, like I very much cultivate the experience that I want. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that because I know that's not everyone's experience. So, Cynthia, you were going to say something before Darrel started talking.
Yeah, no, it's kind of echoing a lot of, my RPG career isn't that long, honestly. But majority of it has been with people that I've known for years. So we already have our own understanding of, our tolerance or what, our humor style, things like that. And kind of like what you just said, I am, the kind of person that will take the time to make sure that whatever table I'm sitting at is where I want to be. I don't have a lot of experience in the con or like going to cons and things like that. So I can't say that, I've never been at really a random table before.
Yeah.
So my personal experience, again, I've heard other experiences in stories and things like that. But for me personally, like you were saying, I'm pretty aware of things like that. And, and I have a fairly, not even just a tough skin, but like a certain level of indifference that I'll present, and it just depends on the situation, I guess. But that's not to say that obviously there are definitely situations out there that are not good. So
and it's another good thing to acknowledge is just because it's not our personal experience, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Like I'm aware that there are things out there that I've heard horror stories, and I'm just fortunate in my gaming experience that I haven't experienced a whole lot of it, which is great.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So when it comes to the characters you're playing, we were talking about Jess. You tried to really play down the like sexuality of your character, like what they exude. So playing characters that are not what you're presenting as, like say that one of my characters, for example, since I am a cis woman, I play a male character, a male cleric in one of my Pathfinder campaigns. And my GM he's wonderful and he's great and he is an ally and he still has problems calling me he and him at the table because of the fact that I present femme. So, have you had any experiences with playing a gender other than what you are at the table, and how did that go? Darrel, have you ever?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when
with Thirsty Sword Lesbians, for example.
With Thirsty Sword Lesbians. And what was really fascinating about that was it was out of my wheelhouse for two reasons. One is it was a feminine experience, and the other one was I was totally lost on a lot of the lesbian culture, the tropes and memes that surround that.
Yeah.
And the ones that I am aware of are fairly derogatory and not cool. So it was interesting to have other perspectives at the table and be able to hear and interact with that. As far as putting myself in that headspace, I identify as genderqueer, so I do kind of have that in me already. So it's not hard to slip into that kind of headspace. What was more difficult was the relationship angles, because a lot of my experiences personally dealing when I'm dressed femme with other women are not always positive, friendly, and uplifting. Some of them are really catty and terrible, and I didn't want to bring that to the table.
Yeah.
So instead I focused on some of the cool experiences I've had and kind of brought that as what I was trying to channel and bring to the table, was like the sisterhood, the camaraderie, the building each other up, and working as a team. So
yeah.
It was interesting. I want to work with that more. I rarely get opportunities to be a player in a game, so I'm looking forward to having more opportunities to be a player and sit down and perhaps work with that some more.
Yeah.
Oh, but I do have one really cool experience that just popped into my head.
Yes.
So many, many years ago, I was running a game of Undying Memories, or Dying Memories, that's what it was. Jim Pinto game about you're dying in space and your body is slowly suffocating and you're trying to recall your memories before you all die.
It sounds really positive already.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's a game
I know.
Oh, it's a wonderful game. But it deals with a lot of really interesting psychological phenomena. Jim Pinto must have like a master's in psychology or something, because he goes deep into this is what your body does when it's dying, and here's what you can't do in a dream and what you can do in a dream. And so you play through these dream sequences, and through the dream sequences you gain different mental statuses that change your character. So one minute you are super strong and awesome, Captain Save-A-Lot, and the next minute you are super meek and scared of everything, as you gain these conditions. And so one of the conditions that I gained was my character gender flipped. And I started as masculine, became feminine, and there was a scene with another cis woman at the table where we started doing girl talk, and she mimed like putting rouge on my cheeks and stuff. And I kid you not, it was one of the most affirmative experiences I've ever had in gaming, to like sit there and act femme, be seen as femme, interact as femme with another female person. It was really, really cool. So that was an awesome experience.
Yeah. That is so cool. I like that. Thank you for sharing that.
Of my heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gaming is fun, but gaming can also be cathartic. It can also have some really cool experiences that really change you or make you awesome. So.
And that's the thing, is that when you're playing an RPG, you can play whoever you want. So that's one of the ways that people are using RPGs, is to try on different experiences. So it's like, whether that is sexuality or gender or something like that, that's a way that you can do that. Say that you're feeling like, say that you present masc and you want to feel a more feminine experience or something along those lines, you can try that on as a character. So again, that's making sure that you're comfortable with people at your table to do that, and see how people react and how you react. It's like when you're changing your name, there are a lot of people who, when they're changing their name, will go to Starbucks and order a coffee and have it, their new name is what they give them, so that when someone calls out their new name, they can try it on. And RPGs are a way you can do that. So, Cynthia, I forgot what I said. So,
Ashley,
how about you? I know that your new character is a male character, correct?
he is. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I mean, I think for when I was creating him, honestly, I was just doing random accents in my car, driving, and because that's what you do when you're in a car usually.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess it just I started like found the accent, and then I started just like creating the story of him, and then the name, it's Biscuit, so it's not even like a gender specific name. Yeah. And for some reason I was just like, yeah, he's just a little halfling guy, he's just a little halfling named Biscuits Boyo, and he is a cavalier, and he's got a giant turkey named Gravy, and that's what it is. So
wait, what was the accent you practiced, just real quick?
Yeah.
Oh, I have to practice it to get into it.
Biscuits.
Biscuits Boyo.
It's gone.
Yeah. It's
Biscuits has like an Irish accent.
Irish.
Very
Irish.
yeah.
So good. Yeah,
but,
it's gonna be great.
Yeah, aside from that, I mean, the one thing that was interesting for me, that I was just reminded of in Thirsty Sword Lesbians, was the pronouns.
Yes.
And choosing the specific pronouns and things like that, because as far as my personal experience, I've only created one other male character for Jess's campaign. Didn't really get to interact with him too much, but all my other characters have been female. So I guess we'll see in Pathfinder as far as as that goes. But I mean, it's interesting to kind of see how that will go, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting to try on a different experience from what you live in your day to day. So
100%.
The fact that RPGs give us that ability is fantastic. That's one of the things I love RPGs for. So, Jess, did you have any thoughts about that? Have you ever played a masculine character?
I have not.
Okay.
And I've created characters. This is going to be a spoiler for all y'all because you've met her a few times, but I have a changeling. I'm not going to tell you who she is.
Okay.
But I have a changeling, and I did create a male alter ego for her, but I've never gotten to play him. But no, I haven't ever played anything other than a cis woman yet, and I think that's probably out of fear, because I'm a theater person. I've done community theater. I grew up with the theater, and that's part of what I love about theater is inhabiting these other personalities and being different people, and that's what I love. And I've never really done that with my RPGs, and I think it's because I'm afraid of doing it wrong or doing it or stereotyping it too much, or I don't know. It's just it's scary. I really want to, but I'm afraid.
Yeah, I get that, and that's something like this can be a very triggering and sensitive subject for a lot of people. So you want to make sure that you're not troping it up, like you said. If you're going to be doing it and living in this skin through the game, you want to make sure that you're doing it justice and you're not doing it based on stereotypes or anything like that. Like Darrel was saying with the Thirsty Sword Lesbians, the things he knows about the lesbian experience are generally not positive, unfortunately. So you want to make sure that you're not doing that and you're not doing anything to cause any harm in something like this. So that totally makes sense. Yeah. One of the ways that people are using RPGs also is through is for therapy. So one thing I wanted to say is, yes, you can do this and you can try on different experiences with your table, but just keep in mind that your table are not your therapists. So therapy is fantastic. It is great. There is RPG therapy out there, which I think is amazing. And I definitely want to learn more about that because I think that would be great to be able to live these experiences and kind of work through things. But just make sure you don't treat your table as your therapy group if you choose to do that. So yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that about covers it. Did you guys have any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah. How to.
Yeah.
a tool that I learned that I started using at conventions because early on a previous podcast I was on, we had a listener question as we started to talk about these experiences and how to create welcoming and inclusive spaces that were safe and that encouraged everyone to be themselves. And a question came up from, I believe it was Eddie Webb, one of the White Wolf writers, who had an experience at the table where a person sat down at the table and introduced themselves as a trans woman and created a masculine character. And everyone at the table had a really hard time keeping things straight. Because they wanted to address her as a woman, they wanted to address the character as a man, and it kept getting mixed up, and it caused some issues.
Yeah.
And so as we kind of problem solved this, I came up with a great solution that I really love to share with everyone, and it's the character name card.
Yes.
So every time that I sit down at a convention table, I give everyone a note card. We fold it hot dog style, and I say, "This is your name tent. I want 2 things on this. I want to know what your character's name is, and I want to know what your character's pronouns are. Write them on the card."
Yeah.
That is how you're going to be addressed at this table. For the remainder of this session, that is how I'm going to address you, by your character name and your character pronouns. I know that you may not present the same way. I know that you may not use the same character name, but this is how I'm going to present. This is how I'm going to address you, because it solved so many challenges of the trying to address people in character and as an individual player at the same time. So at least at conventions, and I really encourage this for home games too, name cards go a long way to keep everything straight and just make sure that you're addressing people the way that they want to be addressed. And while you're at the table, you're playing those characters anyway. So me as a GM looking across a sea of name cards, I can very easily say, oh yeah, that's Harsk, masculine pronouns, and remember that and beat it into my head every time that I look at that and associate it with that player. So I love name cards as a way to keep everything straight.
That'd be useful for me because I still misgender Harsk all the time.
Yeah. Harsk is my male cleric that I play. Yeah, and it's something that everyone's kind of working through. We've played for a couple years together, but if we were to play in person and have name tents, that would be a really good idea.
Really would. It's kind of hard to do on Roll20 because I hear your voice, I see your face, but there's no name card. So yeah.
Yeah, and the little tokens that they use you can't see anything on them. It's just that's a dwarf. So yeah. Yes. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show with me today and talking about this with me. It was fun. It was really good. Where can people find you if they want to talk to you a little bit more about any of the things you've said? Positive, I hope. But, Jess, like, for example, Jess said she's running Strahd. So, Jess, where can people find you if they want to track you down and talk to you about some stuff?
I'm technically in the Full Metal RPG Discord. As you can find me as CN Ricochet for codename Ricochet. So just tag me if you want to chat. I don't hop in there too much, but I can. If you tag me, I'll see it. I don't really have any other online places you can find me. If you want to stalk all my old cosplay, you can find me on Instagram as CN Ricochet, but it's all I'm not active anymore, so you just look at old pictures of me in silly costumes.
And if you don't know which channel to tag her in or anything, I have the Ashpad channel, which is kind of me and my games and different stuff. It's a sleepy channel, but if you wanted to communicate with any of the people here through that, that's totally fine. You can use it for that. So, Darrel, where can people find you?
So here on Discord, this is Darrel. Pretty easy to find here in the Full Metal Discord. Also, I run a Facebook page, Sosha Justice. So at Sosha, SOSHA Justice. I share a lot of social justice and community outreach and educational material there. So that's a great place to reach out and message me as well. Or you can find me on Instagram at Sosha Justice. But you have to send me a friend request. It's kind of locked down at the moment. So yeah, those are 3 wonderful places to reach out to me.
Awesome. And Cynthia?
So I'm also on Full Metal RPG Discord under Good Fork. You can also find me on Twitch, /Good Fork, and my Instagram link is on there if you want to reach out that way.
Cool. Awesome.
My Instagram is just a bunch of donkeys. So
yeah, she has a thing for donkeys, as you can see in the.
I own 4 of them, so there's a reason. But
yes,
so that's how you can find me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining me. You guys know where to find me. So you can find Full Metal RPG on Facebook at Full Metal RPG. The Instagram is kind of Brendan and us kind of figuring that out right now. So Full Metal RPG Instagram. We are not on Twitter. Never have been really. And with me, I'm on the Full Metal Discord. You can find me on Instagram. I have a Linktree. If you go to linktree.com, Ashley J. Smith, you can find all of my shit there. So anyway, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or any thoughts or anything on this, please reach out and talk to us about that. We definitely, all of us are open to conversation about really anything we talk about. So thank you so much. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
And Richard's not going to do the press.